Okay, so this is my rack 6 again. Okay, the basement rack. So this is my Nexus 7K. I just have rebooted him. There is no configuration on this device. So when I boot him, he'll always ask me with a password, which I'll always give as CCIDC01. You must be aware from the CCN itself, right? Rather than writing the password, because you may miss capitals and all, you copy paste it. That's very important. Okay, copy paste it, especially for US racks, because in US racks, if you reset password with any other password, it's very hard to recover it, because somebody has to go there and switch the device, switch on and off the device. Okay, but here we can do it, switch on and off, but there it's much difficult. So you just copy and paste it out. That will save your time as well. So I'll give the switch name here as, say, this is my VDC1, right? Now this 6.1, so it does not support admin VDC. Okay. Now if I check right now, what are my VDCs that we have currently? We just have one VDC, which is our Ethernet VDC type, right? Because this is the default VDC itself. So if I check show module here, in the module column also you see 2M modules that we have, right? Now, as I told, when we make VDCs, what we would like to do is give the VDC access to each and every customer. If it's like for different customers, right? Give separate VDC access. How would I give separate VDC access? Separate interface management, where I'll give separate IP address for telnet, right? So in the case of your Nexus, what you do have is you have something known as VRFs also, right? So in other devices, the VRFs are not there by default, but in Nexus, you by default have VRFs. What is VRF full form? Okay. What it is used for? Keeping routing information with address separate for others. Okay. Now VRFs are generally used for separating customers, generally used by ISPs, right? So that, because when I have a ISP giving services to the customer, so I have my ISP router, which are known as what type of router? Provider edge, right? P. Then I have customer router, which are known as customer edge routers, right? So customer edge. If this was customer 1, there can be another customer also who is wanting the help of the ISP to do the connection again, right? Another customer, customer 2. This is my customer 2. And there are several other customers like that. Now the thing is, ISP cannot dictate what would be the IP address inside the customer's network. So he may have an IP of 10.1.1.0/24, and he may also have the same. Right? Can I control that? I cannot tell the customer to change the IP address, right? So if I cannot do that, if that's not possible, then I need to give each and every customer a separate router. Then provider edge router should be given separate for different customers, right? Because this guy, the provider edge router of the ISP, will be confused where to send to, right? He'll be confused whether I should send for the 10.1.1.0 request to which interface, either say F0/0 interface or another interface, F0/1. He'll be confused because in his routing table, what will he have? In his routing table, he'll have a route telling 10.1.1.0 that is available via both F0/0 as well as F0/1. So he'll be confused where to send to, right? So what we need to do then? Give separate routers to different customers. Is that possible? No, that's not possible at all. Scalability is not possible. There is, right? So in order to save that thing only, we can divide my router or virtualize my router into more routers, right? What is VRF? It virtualizes the router into more routers. How does it do that? By having different routing table instance, by having different routing protocol instances, by having different interfaces on different VRFs. So I can separate this because currently in my routing table I'll have like this. What type of routing table is this? This is my global routing table. When you give the command show IP route, you are seeing the global routing table. The command show IP route shows you the global routing table, right? But now what I'll do is, instead of having them in my global routing table, I'll keep this interface in a different VRF. So VRF A. I'll keep this interface on another VRF. So say this is VRF A, this is another VRF B. Now what will happen because of this? How many routing tables will this router have now? Three. Global, VRF A routing table, VRF B routing table. Because other interfaces are also there, right? He has other interface connecting to provider routers itself, right? Yes. Provider router itself, P routers. These are known as just your P routers, provider routers. So what interface does this belong to? Global routing table. This interface belongs to a different routing table, VRF A routing table. This interface belongs to different routing table, VRF B. So what happens exactly here is my routing table would change now. This entry will no more be there. In which routing table? Global routing table, because they are removed from here, right? They will rather be in which routing table? The VRF A and VRF A B routing table. So if I do show IP route for which VRF, say VRF A, then I can see 10.1.1.0. To reach this network, you have to go via F0/0 interface, right? I'll have another routing table, show IP route. If you check for VRF B, then it will also have another entry for the same network, but on another interface, F0/1. Then I'll have my global routing table also. 3 routing tables now. So what will happen here is, if a packet is sent by my customer 1, it comes into which interface? F0/1. So if it's coming in F0/1, which routing table do I look in? VRF A routing table. I cannot look in VRF B, or I cannot look into the global routing table. Okay, when a packet is sent by customer B, customer 2, it ends up on which interface? F0/1, which belongs to which routing table? VRF B. Means I can look the packet into only VRF B routing table. So if there is an entry there, then only I can do the forwarding. If there is no entry there, I cannot do any forwarding. So what is doing? It's separating what? My data plane, right? Separating my data planes. Now one question to you all: if I had this 2 routers, right, and I connect them with a link, and can I put this interface in VRF A, and can I put this interface in VRF B? Is that possible? Will they communicate? They will, because VRFs are locally significant to a router. VRFs are locally significant to a router. It's not exchanged. So what happens here? It's just simple here. A packet comes in, which VRF does it belong to? VRF B. A packet comes in here, which VRF does it belong to? VRF A. No problem in communication, because it's locally significant to the router. Okay. Now, why is VRF used in Nexus? Because VRFs are by default there in Nexus. It has to be created for iOS based routers, but it's by default there in Nexus. One very important thing, it's by default there is Nexus. We want to try to separate our management network. It's very important that we separate our which network? Management network, right? What types of networks do we have? So it may be different types of networks that we have, right? First of all, very important is your production network, right? Which is already there in the production, which is running, which we cannot touch and change normally. Then we have what network? Management, right? Management network, what is that for? Managing the device. How do I access the device, right? And production network is for generally what? Data plane, right? I am forwarding my traffic. Management network is for telnetting, SSHing the device, and then configuring the device. So they must be kept separate, right? Even if traffic flow is stopped, I still should be able to telnet or SSH the device and still do my configuration, still do my troubleshooting. So if in case what you do is, in case say for example you had a network, normally in CCNA and CCNP you do this itself. So if I have this router R1, then this router R1 is say connected to another router R2, and they are running say for example OSPF or something like that between them. So they are running OSPF between them, right? I have given an IP address on this interface of R1, which I am also telnetting to. So say the IP was 10.1.1.1/24. I am a PC somewhere here who is trying to manage this particular device, right? R1. I am trying to telnet through, maybe it's connected to R2. I'm trying to telnet or SSH to this IP address and trying to access the device and trying to configure the device or troubleshoot the device, anything, right? But I will be able to troubleshoot and access the device if OSPF works fine. If there is some problem with OSPF, then I'll not be able to telnet or SSH the device because it's directly proportional to what OSPF tells me, right? If there is some problem in OSPF, I cannot manage the device at all, right? So my management network should be kept separate from production or control plane. That's what I mean to say. There are three planes: control plane, data plane, management plane. Management plane should always be kept separate, because even if something wrong happens in control plane or data plane, still I should be able to manage and SSH the device and troubleshoot the device, right? So we need to keep it something known as out of band, OOB we call it, right? This stands for out of band. Out of band means we keep it in a different VRF. So that's why in Nexus you have two VRFs, which we have two VRFs by default. And what are they? They are your default VRF. Another one is your management VRF. Which interface belongs to default VRF? All input-output interfaces. So whatever modules you add in, all the module interface will belong to VRF default. But a layer 2 interface cannot belong to VRF. Remember, VRF is what concept? It's layer 3 concept. It's like VLAN in layer 3. VLAN is for layer 2, right? VRFs is for layer 3. So I'm talking about default all input output interface, not just all input output interface, all layer 3 input output interfaces. A switch port does not belong to a VRF, right? And what about management VRF? My management interface belongs to my management VRF. Can I change this? This cannot be changed. Can I change this? This can be changed, but we cannot put it in management VRF. Management VRF is only for management interface. If we want to create other VRFs, that's possible. User defined VRFs are possible because these are the default VRFs, right? Then we want to create more VRFs, that's possible, right? And we can put the input output interface on those VRFs, but not on the management VRF. Neither we can put the management interface from management VRF to any other VRF. Okay, but the interfaces which are in default VRF, this can be changed to user defined VRF, but not the management VRF.
We can have the CMP0 to enable VRF.
CMP0 is a different thing. We cannot have that in management VRF, no.
Control.
That is available only in SUP 1, that also. Not available in SUP 2 and SUP 2E. So management interface, this cannot be changed at all. Okay, so if I go to my Nexus box right now, if I want to verify how many VRFs do you have, what command would you give? Show VRF, right? So as you see, how many VRFs you have? 2 VRF, default, management. Default VRF has got a VRF ID of 1, management VRF has got a VRF ID of 2. The state is what? Up, right? And how do I check? Show interface brief. If you check that out, this will show you information about VRF. It doesn't. This doesn't show you information about VRF, right? Now, if I check the command show IP interface brief, actually the interfaces are all down. That's why it doesn't show you here, right? So all the interfaces are what ports? Routed ports right now. Why? Because they are all M modules, right? That's why they are all routed ports. So if I check show IP interface brief, which VRF is it showing me for? It shows you, it tells you default VRF. It doesn't show you management interface here, right? So if I want to check management interface, how do I check? Show IP interface brief for VRF management. Now this will show you the management interface. Okay, it is kept in a different VRF. If I do show IP route, which routing table does that show me for? Default VRF routing table, right? If I do show IP route for my VRF management, then that shows me the other routing table, which is kept separate from my management interface. This is my management VRF routing table. There we have a default route given. Okay, there we have some IP address given to the interface. So we have separate routing tables, separate interfaces kept in separate VRFs, and management to management VRF, all other interface in the default VRF, right? Which one? No, I have given this IP, yeah.
If you run either of the routing protocol, it goes to default VRF.
Default VRF, yes.
Not like an iOS.
Not like iOS. Yes, iOS is there is no VRF by default, but there is a global routing table where it goes to.
Here, everything is default VRF.
Default VRF.
It's not a design and see this VRF.
If there is
this new version of routers is VRF.
New versions of routers can create VRF, but there is no default. By default, there is not.
Because sometimes when you try to ping, it shows some VRF.
Yeah, it will show you, but it will not be there by default. That's what I'm talking about. In Nexus, you have it by default, and you can create more VRFs if you want to, right?
Does this VRF consume some license, so yes, some limitation?
No. It's in the base license itself. Okay. Now,
if we want to see routing table, global routing message, should we say show IP route VRF default, or
you can give that command also, or show IP route by default shows you default VRF itself. Now in my Nexus, what we have is my SUP right now, right? SUP, with SUP we have SUP 1, and that has a management interface, right? So say the management interface here is only one management interface, right? If I create, say for example, 4 VDCs out of this box, as I told yesterday, management interface comes under what type of resource? Shared resource. So instances of this management interface will be available in each VDC like this, right? And by default, they all fall under which VRF? Management VRF, right? Now, if I want to, currently I'm accessing the device with not the help of management port. This is MGMT0 port, but I am actually accessing the device with the help of another port, which is my console port, right? So we are currently accessing the device with the help of console port. This console port is going to my terminal server, right? There is an access server, which all the device consoles are connected to the terminal server. But if I want to access it via my management interface, this management interface is also connected actually to a management switch. There is a switch, okay? And I am currently in a different network. If you see my IP, so my LAN IP, if you check that out, it's 172.16.2 dot. Okay, I am in which network right now? I'm accessing the device from a different network. Okay, so I'm in a different network. This is me, and my IP is 172.16.2 dot network IP. Okay, and this network is in a different IP, different subnet. It is on 172.16.5.0 subnet, where the default gateway for them is equal to 172.16.5.254. You don't have to do anything here. We have configured everything here. This is the default gateway. Okay, I have done routing also, everything, so that you can access it from a different network as well. Okay, routing has been done there. But if you want to go and give the management interface a IP, from which subnet would you give it from? 172.16.5 dot itself. If you give it from any other subnet, then the default gateway will not work. Okay, because the default gateway is 172.16.5.254. So if you give it from any other subnet, whichever you want to, then you cannot access the device because the default gateway will not work, because generally you'll access the device from a different network. Okay, so you must always keep your, if in case you are using the rack and in case you want to access the devices, individual VDCs individually using management interface, because right now I have to access only from one console only, right? I can open one console, I have to do switch back, and I cannot do verification properly because I want to do ping from one VDC, right? I want to send a continuous ping, but I need to go to another VDC and check that out. So that's not possible if I do not open different consoles for them. So what I want to do is open different consoles for them. So always remember, whenever you give a IP address to the management interface, you give it from this subnet, 172.16.5 dot subnet. Okay, so if I'm generally giving in 7Ks, I'll start as 71 for VDC1, 72 for VDC2, and so on. Okay, so I want right now not to access them from where? From the console. I want to access them from the management interface, right? So first of all, what should the management interface have? A IP address, right? So I will go and give the management interface mgmt0 a IP address from the subnet of 172.16.5 dot. So since this is VDC1, I'll give it as 71/24. No shut, right? Do I need to tell it belongs to VRF management? No need, because it's already there by default, right? But what I can do is, for other interface, you can change that, right, by giving the command VRF member. And if you give a question mark, we currently have, it's telling me give it a name or give it a management, right? So let us try to create a VRF. How do I create a VRF? VRF context is the command. VRF context, and you give it a name, any name, say A. So that creates a VRF for you. How do I put an interface on a VRF? VRF member is the command. So if you want to put an interface, say management 0 interface, you want to put that in VRF A. So we'll give the command VRF member command A. But this is not possible. Why? As I told, management interface can only belong to management VRF, and any other interface cannot belong to management VRF again. Why? Because the whole purpose of making management VRF was to keep management network out of band, right? So it will not be out of band if I put other interfaces also in management VRF, or management VRFs are put in other VRFs, right? So we cannot do this for the management interface, but other interfaces, if you have like say Ethernet 3/1, can they be put? Yes, no problem. Whenever you put an interface under a VRF, all the layer 3 configuration of the interfaces are removed. So if you had an IP address under the interface, that will be removed. So you need to reassign the IP address. So as you see now, if I say give an IP address just randomly, okay, 10.1.1, another interface can be put into a user-defined VRF, but management interface cannot be changed at all. Okay, and if I now check show IP interface brief, you should see some interface 3/1. It's not up still. Why? It's still down, right? Why? Because we have to have cross connections, right? So my interface will come up only if both sides are up, right? It will not come up only if I make one side up. It will come up only if both sides are up. So we need to check 3/1 connects where, and that interface should also be up for it to actually come up, right? So how would I check where does 3/1 connect to? Show CDP neighbors. I don't see anything right now, right? Why? Because other interfaces are by default down. So even if there was a connection 3/1, I cannot see until and unless other interfaces are made up, right? So what we need to do then? 3/1 to how many ports does this have? 32. So Ethernet 3/1 to 32, and we have also 5/1, which has 48 ports. 48. I'll just do no shut, just for the sake of seeing how are they interconnected, right? So when I do no shut and now check the show CDP neighbor command, I don't see any connections here with 3/1, right? I see connections with 5/. I don't see a connection with 3/ though. What is the industry standard of show CDP? Like CDP? CDP Cisco.
LLDP.
Does Nexus support LLDP?
Yes.
It does. How do you enable LLDP? It's not by default enabled, okay? You need to give the key command feature of LLDP. And I feel that this has a better output than CDP because it will give you a better output there, right? So we have some connections going here, but I don't see 3/1 interconnected at all, right? There are other interface 3/6, 3/7, but which one?
We're getting 3 and 5. 3 is also Cisco only, no?
3 is also Cisco only.
Cisco device.
Yeah.
But still, we have to take another common protocol to see that.
No. It will be shown in show CDP neighbor as well. It comes.
Now it's come.
But we don't see any connections in 3/1. So can I use that interface? No, right? So which interface can I use? It shows me 3/6. So let me try with Ethernet 3/6. So 3/1, I'll just go give no IP address. Okay, interface Ethernet 3/6. I'll give the command. See, if you give an IP address before, then you put that in VRF, all the IP address will be removed. So you need to give back the IP. So it's better you first assign it to a VRF and then assign it with the IP, right? So now if I check show IP interface brief, let me check first show interface brief. It's shown as what? Routed Ethernet 3/6 is routed up. Okay. So show IP interface brief. Will I see that there? Which VRF? A. It's there, right? VRF management we have, and what VRF we have? Default we have. In default, we do not have any interface given with the IP there. right? That's what VRF is used for. So interface, can it be put in a default VRF, management VRF, VRF member, question mark. We have an option of giving management, right? Let us try it. Cannot. It's reserved only for management 0. Clearly it's telling you. Okay, so, and that's good, right? Because we like to completely separate my management network, and that management VRF should not be used by anyone else, to keep management network out of band, so that OSPF process fails in default VRF, that doesn't affect at all management VRF, right? That's the whole objective here. Now, as I told, I need to now assign them some IP under the management interface. So what IP did I assign? Interface management 0, I assigned with the IP of 172.16.5.71. Okay. And I should give it a default gateway also, right? My default gateway is how much? 254. So for giving the default gateway, we need to go to VRF context management. And there is where I give my default route. So anything unknown, forward it to whom? The default gateway. For what? If you want to run any other protocols like EIGRP for that VRF, you have to go to VRF context and define the process there. So this default route is put in which VRF? The management VRF. It will not be seen in which VRF? Default VRF or the user defined VRF, which we made as A. Right? So if I do show IP route, nothing will be shown there. I don't have this in my default VRF. Neither I do have this in my VRF A. There is no default route. Where do I have it on? Management VRF. Right? So I need to verify, is it pinging my default gateway first of all? Right? So I need to ping to whom? 172.16.5.254. If I ping, normal ping takes which routing table? Default. So is the entry there in my default routing table? No. So I cannot ping it from here, right? So where should I ping it from? VRF management. And that is pinging, as you see. Okay. But one thing that is not there by default enable is because we are going to telnet this device, right? So I'll give the command feature telnet as well. So now let us try to telnet to the IP which we have given 172.16.5.71, right? As you see, now we are from which interface are we telnetting it from? Management. Similarly, we like to do it for other VDCs that we would like to create, right? So say I wanted to create other VDCs. How do I create VDC and give it simply a name, right? So VDC say 2, and then you further can give ID to it. By default, it takes ID 2, 3, 4, and so on, right? I can define the ID. No need of doing that. It creates the VDC for us, but it takes some time, and you would not like to waste your time. So you do Control C. That would go out of the hang state, and you can further give your commands. Control C. Let us create. How many VDCs are there? 4. Can I create one more? So if I create VDC number 5, what it tells me? You have reached the maximum number of allowed VDCs, right? So SUP1 does not support 4 plus 1 also. It just supports 4. And now once the VDC is created, currently if I do show VDC, it's not in creation, it's creation in progress, right? It takes some time for it to come up. It must be in which state? Active state. That's what you need to see. And what you see also, each VDC gets its own MAC address. Every one is a Ethernet VDC, right? There is no default, there is no admin VDC. There is no storage VDC right now. So the VDC is slowly coming online, as you see. So if you now do show VDC, you should see them all as active and then we want to go to another VDC, right? Because see, whenever I buy a device first thing first is we have to connect with a console always, right? We cannot connect it with the management. Why? Because we have to configure that first. So we have to take a console cable and connect and then configure. Later we can do telnet from management once we have configured the management interface with IP and all. But without a IP, I have to go with a console cable. So here also, I haven't set up a IP for VDC2 or VDC3 or VDC4. So we have to go through the console first. I need to go to that VDC. How do I go to that VDC? Switch to VDC, VDC2. Or instead of writing this, you can write some alias for it, right? So CLI alias, a name, S2 for switch to VDC, VDC2. Similarly for 3, right? Similarly for 4. Right, so instead of giving the long command, I can just give s2 now and always copy paste the password. That's why I have a password written here. Okay, copy paste it. Don't waste time, right, thinking about typing the password. So by default, when you create other VDCs, the host name is combined host name of the parent VDC. The default VDC combines the host name with the non-default VDC that we create, right? So VDC1 was the parent VDC. We created another VDC out of it, VDC2. If I would not like to see this, right? So what I would go do, switch back, go to the default VDC, give the command no VDC combined host name. That's the default. VDC combined host name is the default. I'll give no in front of that. So now I go to VDC2. It should not show me the combined host name. So currently,
what did you
no VDC combined host name because it was coming like this previously. I want to see like this. Okay. Now, do I have a IP here? Show IP interface brief or show IP interface brief for which VRF? Management. Don't have a IP, right? What I need to do here also, give it a IP from the with subnet, the same subnet, right? So generally, it's the same commands that we need to give. First of all, what command? Feature telnet, right? I go to the interface management 0. I give it a IP address 72 for VDC2. No shut. Then I go to VRF context management. There I give what? A default route. Right? And this is what I'll copy and paste it out here. Right? So this should also be able to ping my default gateway, right?
So you don't need to assign this?
Which one? Management interface is already there in management VRF. You don't have to assign it. So from which VRF will again ping? Management. It's pinging. Means this will also work then. Right? Similarly, we need to do it for which VDC as well? VDC3, VDC4. So what do I do first? Switch back, go to VDC1, go to VDC3. Because a new VDC comes up like a new device. It will ask you again for what? A password, which is for my admin account, right? Network admin is the username. So once you do that, Notepad is the most helpful tool for you guys because you do not write the commands again and again. It's the same, right? Just change some values, copy and paste it out. This will save a lot of time because 8 hours, you have to save that 8 hours of lab. At least you should finish your lab by at least 5 hours. The entire lab. 3 hours, you should keep it for verification. So it's very important that your typing speed, your skills with Notepad, your skills with shortcuts are there. Okay, so it's not just cracking the exam by memorizing. It's also speed. Speed does matter. So you have to increase your speed. Increased speed can only happen if you do practice regularly. Now I do that in VDC3. Go back to VDC1. Go to VDC4. Set him up with a password. And go to the notepad, change this to what? 74. Copy, paste this out. Right? Now, what should I be able to do then? Instead of going to the console and telnetting them, I can directly telnet to the management interface IP I've given. So that I open different consoles for different VRF, representing them as different devices itself, right? So I just go, this is my VDC1. This is my VDC2. This is my VDC3. This is my VDC4. Right? This would be much easier for us to now configure the rest of the part. So whenever you would access the rack, please do like this itself. If you are in the internal network. Okay, if you are not in the internal network, then you cannot do this. You have to be in the networker's home premises to do this. Otherwise, there is another option you have to do via remote desktop. I have a remote desktop there where if you connect to that, you will fall in that, and in the remote desktop, you can do telnet sessions. Then you can do it. Okay. So this is my which VDC? VDC1. This is my VDC2. This is my VDC3. This is my VDC4. Do you get this, guys? Why are we doing this? Because we like to ping from here, somewhere, right? Ping. And can a ping happen to 71? I told management interface, although they are in the same subnet, if it's of the same chassis, they cannot ping each other. And that's good. Internal communication should be stopped between all VDCs internally, right? They can communicate, but externally. You have to connect a cable. Is there any way that I can ping this? Like, is there any way that I can make this ping happen? No. From outside. Like, I want to ping the management interface of the same chassis. Can I do that? Connect them with the cable. No, I'm talking about management interface, not the other interface. Management interface. Can I ping? I have to go to the router and then. So if there is some other things, then it can be. Okay. How? Because right now they are in the same subnet, right? It will never hit the router if they are in the same subnet. If it hits the router and then router routes it, that's when it can be. Okay, it can be. Okay, it's not like it cannot pick, but if they are in the same subnet, it's never hitting the router, right? If it's going to a different subnet, then only it hits the router, right? So if I keep them in different subnets and somehow go to the router and tell it to do some routing, right? Then it can be. So, but generally, you will not like to do that.
Now, why do we need to put in the same subnet?
Why? Because my management network is there, right? For a management network, you would have a default gateway.
It's outside.
A management network is separate. Because that's why all the devices now come with an extra interface, which is management, right? Nowadays, every new device that you would see comes with a management. Previously, what we used to do? Previously when I had a switch, right? Did it have a management interface? No, it didn't have. It had console auxiliary ports, right? So what we used to do then in that case, we had VLAN 1, right? VLAN 1, I used to give it what? IP address, and I would not use VLAN 1 for any other purpose. I used it for management purpose, but there was a big problem, right? Because VLAN 1 belongs in data plane. And if something wrong happens in data plane, I cannot manage the device. That's why they came up with a new concept of take another interface for management. Right? Keep it separate here. Keep it totally out of band, which Nexus does it by default. You don't have to do it. It does it by default. Other devices, then you have to do it. But Nexus does it by default. You don't have to do it. Management interface already belongs to management.
But one question on the default. Sorry, on the default management. I'm going to use the default management interface.
You wanna use
the default VDC management interface. Why did you create the VRI?
A. Okay, I created one VRS, that was A. Two VRS were already there.
Yes.
Right. So if I check on VDC1, show VRF, how many VRFs are there? 3. A is what I created, user defined. Default and management were already there.
But sometimes I cannot, I may not need to create VRF A.
There is no need of creating VRF A, okay. Right? But it is needed in some cases where you would like to separate again that network. Maybe say for example your company has production, right? Company has testing, company has development.
No, I'm saying in terms of management.
In terms of management, no need of it. Okay. No need, because it's by default done by us.
On the management interface, I can only create if I want to route, and this one is input.
Default route in the VRF context manager.
Yes. Actually, I didn't follow that. Why do you look for a CDP neighbor and why do you look for that one?
LLDP neighbor?
Yeah,
because I need to check what are the cross connections going between. Right? I need to check cross connections in the same chassis. How do I check that? The only way I can check is go downstairs, check it physically, or use show CDP names, or use show LLDP names.
No, what is the purpose? Why do
To check. Because how will I know what connections are there?
between VDCs?
No, in the same VDC.
He's a little worried about why we have CDP neighbor, why did we go to LLDP?
No, that's okay. I understand what is the purpose of CDP and LLDP. But here, we're creating management interface.
No, I didn't check it for management. I just checked it so that I can give an IP address for VRFA. Because for giving it an IP address, it should be up, right? It will be up only if there are connections. It has to be a closed circuit, right? Closed circuit can only form when I connect it with the keyboard, right? And it will come up only then. Only then I can check. So I would not have checked that. If I currently give show IP route for VRFA, right? I see a IP address there. This was not possible if the interface would have gone down. The interface was going down. Like say, this interface is not connected anywhere. Okay, I give it the command VRF member A itself. I give it an IP address, say 20.1.1.1/24. I do no shut also, but this will not be seen in VRF A routing table. Why? It's not connected anywhere. If it's not connected, it will not come up. Until it doesn't come up, I would not see the route in my routing.
Between your VDC channels also you're given the cables, no?
Yes, that's the reason. Okay. Any doubts here, guys, with the VRF in Nexus? So, just a second, okay?
इसकी वीडियो देखनी पड़ेगी
I didn't get you.
On the respondent, then we have created the start here. Is it possible to create the non-cloud?
Yes. So I have created how many VDC? Show VDC, which we are in the default VDC. That's why you can see everyone, right? If I am in a non-default VDC and give the same command, I can see only that VDC, right? So this particular place is very powerful place to be on, right? Because from here we can create, not only create, delete, right? Allocate interface, allocate resources, suspend the VDC, reload all the VDCs. So very powerful place to be in. That's why it's not used for data plane normally. That's why people were losing one VDC. That's why Cisco came up with 4+1 offers, right? With SUP2 and SUP2E. And with SUP1 it's possible, but only with 6.2 version of Nexus OS. And when I now would check some commands like show run, already you will see that I haven't given any of these commands, right? Did I give any of these commands? I haven't, right? But there is already some commands given there. And if you check, it's telling limit resource module type. What are the modules that can be placed in this VDC? M1, F1, M1, XL or M2 XL. All of them can be placed in the same VDC. Okay, because with 6.2 you will see the difference here, or because it supports what then F2, F2E, so we can do that also with 6.2, not possible with 6.1. But what you see, another thing here is allocate interface. Did I give this command? It's already by default there. Allocate all the interface by default to which VDC? Default VDC. As you see, all the interface are in default VDC. Other interface, does another VDC have any interface right now? No, right? And then you see limit resource command. So limit resource, the number of VLANs you can create. Minimum 16, maximum 4094.
So
right?
what's the meaning of minimum?
Yes, that's what I was about to ask you guys. What is the meaning of minimum here?
Number starts from 16. VLAN number.
Number starts from 16, no? No.
Number of VLANs start from 16.
Number of VLAN starts, no, because if I check,
you can have minimum VLAN of 16.
show VLAN brief.
Maximum of 4090.
Means, does it mean we have to have 16 VLANs minimum? No, there is only VLAN 1 here. Can I not create VLAN 2? It is possible. Show VLAN brief will show you that. And I only have 2 VLANs. So what is the meaning of this command? Minimum and maximum. What is the meaning of this command? See, when I create VLANs in a switch, and as I create more number of VLANs, what happens actually? Spanning tree runs per VLAN, right? As I create more number of VLANs, spanning tree instances increases. Spanning tree instances increases, more resources needed from the CPU, right? As the number of instances increase, more CPU resources needed. For one instance, lesser CPU resource. For more instance, more CPU resource. So what is the minimum command telling here is for a VDC, at least CPU resource will be available for at least 16 VLANs, even if you do not have it. CPU resources it's talking about. It's not talking about the number of VLANs you can create. So minimum for 16 VLANs, the CPU resources are there. Your CPU resources can be there for a maximum of 4094 number of VLANs.
Spanning tree 16 instances can be.
Spanning tree? No, it doesn't mean that. Yes.
Sir, we don't have F1 module, but then we've just given, that's a command which says that we're allowing M1, M2 on the top. F1 is still not there.
Yeah, it's not there. But if I like, yes. So if I add later, then it takes it. Like if I add currently F2, it doesn't take it. It will not take it. So where will F2 modules go to? VDC 0, right? So similarly, VRF minimum. What does this mean? Minimum, how many VRFs you have already in Nexus? 2. So resources should be there for 2 VRFs, right? And maximum, how many VRFs can be created? 4096. That is the maximum number of VRFs that can be created. So similarly, there is amount of port channels you can create, right? Number of port channels 0, maximum 768. Number of mu4 route and version 6 route memory, multicast route memory.
For
Yep.
port channels,
Yep.
VLANs.
Yes.
So when they put the minimum 0 for port channel, without changing maybe 41, is it possible to place the port channel on that VDC?
Maximum 0 if you do that. Minimum is 0. 0. Maximum is 768. So it's not minimum that you see, right? You see maximum value, right?
Can we change it?
Yes, you can. Everything can be changed, whatever you see here, right? And boot order by default, all of them has a boot order of how much? 1? All of them. So boot order 1 means what? Everyone will boot in the same order, right? Lower the boot order, they will boot first. No need of changing. Why would I change it, right? Not required actually. So the things that we need to do now is we need to allocate interface to the VDCs, right? But how will we allocate interface? It's not randomly we'll start allocating, right? We need to make a diagram first, fill the diagrams with interfaces, and then allocate interface to the VDC, right? So say for example, we were to make 4 VDCs, which we already have. But what interconnections we can do, we are not quite sure about it, right? Why? Because I don't know how many cables are cross connecting them. I don't know. I'm blank right now. This will be your first experience also. You'll also be blank, right? I don't know what cables connects where. So how do I figure that out? Show CDP neighbors. But for show CDP neighbors to work, all interface must be up. So first of all, I will go to the default VDC, which has all the interfaces. I'll make all of them what? Up. Right? And then I will give the command of show CDP neighbor or show LLDP neighbor, anything, both will give the same output. Then I see what are the cross connections there, right? Show LLDP neighbor. If you check that, that will give you a better result. Okay, it's like more information here, lesser information here, but for seeing it's like better, right? So I copy this and let me paste this out. And now check what are the cross connections going, and all of them shows what? VDC1 only, right? That means what? It's going to VDC1 itself, right? Coming from VDC1 going to VDC1 itself. And what you see, the interfaces are repeated. See, we have 3/6, again comes what? 3/6. Why? Because they are the same device. So whatever are being repeated, you just delete them off, right? This is being repeated. 16 and 20, 16 and 21, right? This is being repeated. So I'll just delete this off. Right, 21, 20, 26. This is again being repeated. I'll just delete this off.
All the second ones probably.
Right, this one.
Second one. Pattern is
Right. So these are the cross connections actually that we have. Right. So after seeing this, then you can know what interfaces you can use, right? But before that, you need to check what as well. Port grouping. Also, we cannot randomly allocate just like that. Okay. So how many connections are there internal cross connecting the modules itself? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So you make a diagram out of it, which I have already made. I'll mail you this, okay? Diagram as well. Yeah. Yeah. These are the cross connections, which I've already made. Okay. So after that, you can figure out how can we do the cross connections between them, right? And what I'll see, another thing, another very important thing that I'll see, what are my port groupings? Because I have two modules, right?
So can you repeat the particular connection?
Particular?
The particular connection.
Connection?
Yeah.
Which connection?
The one we have done, we have seen for that. How to check that this port you are connected. When you say close connection, what do you mean?
Close connection.
Yeah.
Cross connected. Cross connection. You mean cross connection, right?
Can you make them right now? What does that mean?
So this is a which module? This is M132 XP module. Okay. This, if you check on the show CDP neighbor output, the 3/6 is going to 3/7, 3/16 is going to 21, 3/20 going to 26 in the same module. So if you have 3/6 say interface here, that is connected to whom? 3/7, and there you will see a cable connecting like this. That's what has been done. That's why you are seeing it in show CDP neighbors. Okay. So as you see, M132XP is there, M148GT is there, and yesterday we saw they had different port groupings. What was the port grouping for M132XP? Port grouping of 4, and even an odd port groupings. What was the port grouping for M148? No port groupings. So if you check show interface Ethernet 3/1 capabilities is where you see the port groupings, right? If you check that, same for 5/1, you do not have any port groupings, none. So with 3/ modules, we have to be extra careful. With 5/ you need not, right? So if I'm making some topology here, and say I was making a topology where I want to do a practical for VPC, right? So for VPC, what do I need? I need peer link, I need peer keep alive link, I need member ports, right? So for peer link, I will use two interfaces, right? Peer keep alive link, I'll use one of the interface, because can I use management interface here for peer keep alive link? I cannot, right? Will they ping in the same chassis? They will not ping as we have already verified it. So we cannot use the management interface, means we have to have an extra interface for this, right? Then we would like to have interfaces that goes down and they make my member ports, right? Like this, a VPC topology. Now, how do I make it then? I check my show CDP neighbor. I check that if you check for 3/6, what is the port grouping for 3/6? Right? Means if I allocate 6 along with it 2, 4, 8 will also go. Right? So, and can I use, so another consideration that should come in your mind is, can I use a M132 or M148 GT here. If you do show module, you see that this has 10 Gbps speed, this has 1 Gbps speed. So for peerling we have to use this, no other option. So we have to use from the 3/, right? So what are the things that we have from 3/? 6 to 7, another is 16 to 21. See, when I made the cross connection, I made in such a way that I avoid port groupings, right? So here we'll have what interface? 3/6. Here we'll have what interface then? 3/7. And another interface that I can use is 3/16 going to 3/21. Right? Now, are any other 3/ there? Yes, one more is there. But if you check for 20, right? Show interface, Ethernet 3/20, capabilities, 18, 20, 20, 24 are my port groupings. Will I use it? Not required. I use it because other interfaces, are they required to be 10 Gbps? No. I can use 5/, and there are, because why would I like to use 5/? I don't have to worry about port groupings, right? So because of that, I would like to use for all the rest of them 5/, or you can use 3/ if you want to for the peer keep alive link. But is it required? The peer keep alive has 10 Gbps? Not required, right? But still you can use it if you want to, but not required exactly. So I can use this interface 3/20 to 3/26 for what link? Peer keep alive link can be used, right? Then what else? So all the threes are used. Now we are left with this 5/, and there is no worries when it comes to 5/, no port groupings followed. So I can just allocate 5/1 and 5/2. So let this be what? 5/1. Let the opposite side be 5/2. Have to be opposite side, right? You cannot just do it like that. And 5/3 going to 5/4. So let this be.
Why did you get 20 and 26?
Because they were connected together. That's why we could have taken any other. No worries. Not required. We took 10 Gbps.
Things are the same. They are the same.
They are connected together, right? But for this topology, they should be connected, right? If they are not connected, we cannot use it.
Different VDC.
In the same VDC or in a different VDC.
But you want to find the keep alive in different VDC, or we want to?
It's two different VDCs. This is VDC 1. This is VDC 2. This is VDC 2. This is VDC 3. This is VDC 4.
Okay, so on
the show CDP neighbor output will show you that, right? What connects to where. So one interface I'll keep in a different VDC, another interface in a different VDC. That's what we are doing, right? Like 6 I kept in one VDC, 7 I kept in another VDC.
I'm confusing now for the case of port allocation.
For the case of
port allocation. Because I'm sure when you put for the case of port group, in case of even number, when you put maybe 18. I'm sure that 20.
So there is no relation of port grouping between 3/6 and 16 and 20. That's why we are using it, right? If I put 3/6 in one VDC, will 16 be affected? No, because 6 comes in port grouping of 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So it doesn't affect, but it would have affected if you had used something with 3/2.
Can you help me on the issue of port group, because does the port group take the whole module or even number?
No. Port group is for ASIC based. It depends upon the modules, which you don't have in 5/.
Let's say the module has the 32 ports. So it means it's going to take.
It doesn't mean like that. It depends upon the module type. So for 32xp, the port grouping was 4. For 48, there is no port grouping. Depends upon the module types. So do not remember it. Just go and give the command show interface capabilities. You'll check it out, right? So this is how we do it, right, guys? So it's very important, first of all, to check and then allocate the interface. So what are we left with? 5/5 can be connected to 5/6. 5/9 can be connected to 5/10. So we'll go and update the diagram similarly. So 5/5 to 6. 5/9 to 10. And then allocate the interface later after making the diagram. That's what we need to do. Yes, yeah, and now
Management interface can be used for a pair cable.
this case cannot be used.
Yeah,
it can be used with
chassis.
2 different chassis, yes. And normally VPC we will have it in 2 different chassis only, right? The whole objective of VPC is even chassis failure, right? The whole chassis might fail, VPC doesn't fail because they are 2 different devices, right? So we'll not do VPC in a real production network in the same chassis. But our lab practicing purpose, we have 1 box. However, we have to do it, right? I have to show you the lab, so I am doing that. It's not done in production.
Even Cisco.
Cisco also does it, yes.
We also have
Yeah, that's true.